Good evening from New York. 1 year ago today, Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin was imploring voters in Canton, Ohio to get out and vote on Wednesday, November 5th, the day after the 2008 presidential election. 1 year later, the candidate who tried to win the women's vote by running as a hockey mom, now having driven another Republican woman not only out of the special election in the 23rd Congressional District of New York, but out of the GOP itself. Our fifth story of the countdown, finally, a job for which the governor is qualified. The unemployed Palin inserting herself into the race for that New York 23rd without actually, ever showing up there. 2 weeks ago, Governor Palin having posted on her Facebook page that she would be supporting the conservative third-party candidate Doug Hoffman over the moderate Republican in the race, Dede Scozzafava. Governor Palin, one of the most prominent, if not the only far-right political figures to have done so. Other Republicans like Newt Gingrich having backed Ms. Scozzafava. This past Saturday, Scozzafava dropped out of the race in the face of declining poll numbers and poor fundraising. By Sunday, she was appearing at a campaign event for the Democrat in the race, Bill Owens, warning her former rival to avoid the hateful and divisive tactics that helped drive her out of the campaign. Ms. Hateful and Divisive herself, the Northeast distributor thereof, Governor Palin, again using her Facebook page, this time to thank Scozzafava, quote, for acting so selflessly by dropping out. Yeah, you missed part two, evidently. This afternoon, Ms. Scozzafava recording robocalls for the Democrat, Mr. Owens.
It's not in the cards for me to be your representative, but I strongly believe Bill Owens is the only candidate who can build upon John McHugh's lasting legacy in Congress. To address the tough challenges ahead, we must rise above partisanship and politics and work together. Please join me in voting for Bill Owens on Tuesday.
House Minority Leader Boehner today slamming Ms. Scozzafava for backing the Democrat, quoting him, "This lady clearly has an agenda that is different from most Republicans. She was clearly out there promoting herself. We are doing everything we can to help Doug Hoffman in this race, and we hope he wins." He, of course, had endorsed her. At a rally today for the Democrat Owens, Vice President Biden, a guy who defeated Governor Palin, eliciting boos from the crowd when he mentioned his former rival. The actual vice president challenging Republican voters in upstate New York to vote for the Democrat and teach conservatives a lesson, also calling out Mrs. Palin for failing to see the big picture.
Notwithstanding my former opponent, and by the way, I like her, I really do. Not a joke. This is not a cheap shot. The fact of the matter is Sarah Palin thinks the answer to energy was drill, baby, drill. No, it's a lot more complicated, Sarah, than drill, baby, drill.
Governor Palin responding by how else? Posting on her Facebook page, reading in part, "There's one way to tell Vice President Biden that we're tired of folks in Washington distorting our message and hampering our nation's progress. Hoffman, baby, Hoffman." Time now to call in as we reach this political nadir. Our own Lawrence O'Donnell, contributor to the Huffington Post, as well as a former senior advisor to the late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan of New York. Good to see you.
Good to be here, Keith.
Were it not for Sarah Palin and her Facebook page, would the New York 23rd be getting any national attention even on the eve of this special election?
No, she did it. Dick Armey couldn't do this. She did it. All my sources up in the 23rd say this was chugging along in a normal way until Sarah Palin came in. They expected an extremely low turnout for a special election, and the hardcore is who you get to turn out, and Palin has activated that part of the district, but it is not what that district is really about anymore. It's a reliably Republican district that has been trending more and more moderate all the time.
The campaign, her campaign last year began, within hours of her selection by Senator McCain, began to be enveloped by their perpetual charges of sexism. Every criticism of her was sexism. Mm-hmm. Everything was because she was a woman, because she was a conservative woman. Why did she just put and push another Republican woman off the cliff? And where are the charges of sexism about that?
And of course, we remember that gender defensivism of hers came after her criticizing Hillary Clinton for making sounds like that. Of course. Yes. Well, look, and this is a terrible situation for them, because this is a party that is in the wrong end of the gender gap. And what did they do for it this week? They kicked out this woman who had the Republican nomination to run for the House of Representatives. They just beat her out of the place. This couldn't hurt them with women anymore. It's astounding. They don't even quite qualify for party status anymore when they're down into the low 20, like 19% of Americans saying I'm a Republican. This makes things much worse.
And that 19%, who put Sarah Palin in charge of them? Does Rush Limbaugh know about this?
Well, Rush is jumping. He's trying to keep up with Palin. It's a fascinating thing to watch because he has lost control of his party. They're now co-chairman. I mean, Rush saw where Palin went, and he had to jump in that direction. Rush did not lead the way to Hoffman in the 23rd, and so Rush is now a step behind.
Well, and on top of this, Hoffman today thanked his mentor, Glen Beck, and said they'd stay in touch after he got elected. So it's a fight over. Well, they're going to split. Is the 20% going to split into three parties of 6.5% each?
Well, we may find out how much Beck controls, how much Rush controls, how much Palin controls.
One bit of practical politics here. Did the conservatives who went after Skosafava not anticipate even the possibility that she might throw her support to the Democrat? Did they not even game plan that as a remote chance?
You can tell in Michael Steele's statement that when she dropped out that they didn't. They expected her to just immediately get in line with their idea. Now remember, this guy's not on the Republican ballot. He's on the Conservative Party ballot, so you're not exactly endorsing a Republican. You're jumping across a line to endorse him. I think, and everyone in the 23rd tells me that the real straw that broke the camel's back here for her was Pataki. George Pataki going for Hoffman. The same George Pataki. Now, this district is a much more interesting district than people realize. It borders the state of Vermont, where the only socialist senator gets elected. Plattsburgh, which is the New York City, on that border, had a openly gay mayor, the first openly gay mayor in a New York City, in a city of New York ever. Right. George Pataki took him into his administration just in 2006. And so to see Pataki jump over into this kind of betrayal of Skosafava is the thing that really pushed her over the edge. And that's where she came, when the dust was clear, there was no party left of hers to endorse. And she had to make a choice of, do I go with this conservative guy who's incapable of representing the district, does not live in the district, or do I go with the guy who understands the district and is more in agreement with me? And she went with the candidate who was more in agreement with her.
Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC and the Huffington Post, and this program, of course. Great, thanks for your insight on this issue particularly.